Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the graph in PRISMS. You can toggle between the component and the graph views at the top of the workbench. The graph is a visualization of all the information that has been captured in PRISMS on the texts in the workbench. For example, that the digital manifestation is part of the Taylor Editions project. It allows you to easily see connections, for example between people, printers and places. It's a small snapshot of the enormous graph that underpins PRISMS. All the annotations, components, notebooks, and other content are recorded in the graph. This graph view shows only the top-level relationships of the texts that are present on the workbench. The display settings allow you to toggle between only seeing the relationships relevant to the original print copy or manuscript, or the digital copy, or both. As a type of formal knowledge representation, the relationships in the graph have to be both explicit and encoded in a structured way. PRISMS uses the CRM family of ontologies for this purpose. These set out how the graph is to be arranged and the terms to use for the different types of relationships within it. Clicking on any of the nodes, that is the points in the network, or edges, that's the relationships between the points, in the graph will display a text-based description of its properties and relationships in the information box to the right. To read the graph, you should start with the work. The work will have an expression. Both work and expression are abstract entities. Each expression is a new version of the work. For example, a new edition or a translation would be another expression. The expression is embodied, and here we transition from the abstract to the concrete, in a material manifestation, a physical manifestation, and a digital manifestation. Let's just consider the material manifestation for now. I'll use the display settings to hide the digital manifestation. The material manifestation is materialized in the particular copy that we have in PRISMS. We can find out more about this copy. It was brought into existence by a creation or a publication event, which was carried out by the scribe or the publisher in a particular year. This copy was also the copy used for digital photography. Looking now at the digital manifestation only, we can see that the graph shows all its parts, including the transcription and the facsimile, and how they relate to each other. Viewing both material and digital again, you can see that they are connected by the transcription process and the photography process. The manifestations are also directly connected in the graph. Once you've got to grips with the graph as a way of visualizing the book history of each edition, you might want to add some more connections yourself. This is really easy to do in PRISMS. If there are two nodes already visible in the graph, and you want to add a relationship between them, you can simply select the starting node, click on the red dot, and then drag this to the destination node. You will then see a pop-up box which invites you to select the nature of the relationship from a drop-down list. In this case, the two XML versions, the translation and the transcription, have features in common. Tick the reification box if you need to add additional information about the connection, for example, to cite the source of the knowledge about the edition, which is helpful when constructing scholarly argumentation. If you want to create a relationship to something not visible in the graph view, then select the starting node as before and drag and drop the red dot into white space, or simply click the red dot. This time there is a drop-down list for the type of relationship and a text box for adding the name of the destination node. For example, to encode the name of the transcriber who contributed to the transcription process, you could select the transcription process in the graph and choose was created by, and then enter the name of the transcriber. It's very important to follow the CRM model, which is an event-based ontology. For example, to add a translation, there would be a translation event, which had participants, the translator, and a date, a manifestation in print, and so on. To add a birth details, you would need to first have a birth event, which would then have a date and participants, and so on. For further details on the taxonomy, you can browse the entire family of ontologies on PRISMS, or you can consult the CRM website itself. To access this information on PRISMS, just double-click in white space on the graph view and click the Taxonomy View in the pop-up box that appears. The Taxonomy View shows how the information in PRISMS is organised into classes and subclasses. Each node in the graph is part of a class, for example, the Places class or the Person class. You can add new nodes with all their properties from the Templates tab in this pop-up. You'll need to decide which class of node you want to add, for example, a person. You'll then be prompted to search PRISMS to make sure it isn't already there. Once you've done this, you'll be presented with a list of entities that match your search terms. For an entity that isn't already in PRISMS, for example one from Wikidata, you have the option to add additional information or to correct the information that's there and save your changes. If none of the entities in the results list are the one you want, then you can create a completely new entity, adding in all the properties you need. For a person, that might mean birth dates and death dates and so on. The Shortcuts tab in this pop-up box allows you to create relationships between nodes in a consistent way that's compliant with the scheme that we're using. You can easily select the type of connection you want to add. For example, for a birth, it would be an actor brought into existence at an event. Using these shortcuts is preferable to creating your own directly on the graph, as they ensure consistency in the way the ontology is applied. Once you've added connections, you can view them in the Workbench toolbox and publish them to the wider community. Over time, this collective modelling effort will not only support scholarly work done on particular texts or groups of texts, but will contribute to an ever-expanding knowledge graph for the benefit of a truly open scholarship. PRISMS is an invitation to participate in this effort. That brings us to the end of the tutorial on the graph in PRISMS. If you have any feedback or suggestions for future development, please get in touch. Thank you for listening.